In this video, I'm going to show you how to put up a book for pre-order on KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, and we'll also dive into why you should, why this may be good for book marketing or book launches, some of the mistakes I've made in the past, but mainly I'm just going to show you how it all works. So if you're in KDP Publishing and you go to your bookshelf, you'll see a page like this where you can create something new. It's kind of funny that they still show Visit Kindle Vella over here because Kindle Vella was the short serialized publishing platform that Amazon created, but has recently announced they are shutting down. So they'll probably remove these links here. If I go to create, I'll get into this page, and we want to make a Kindle ebook because you can't set up a paperback for pre-order. Paperbacks and hardcover, you can set them up later, but they don't have the option of pre-order. So we're going to do this one for create ebook, and that'll get you into the normal book creation stage where you have to set up all your details. So I started by choosing a language, which is English. I put up a book title and a subtitle. Your book title and your subtitle really should match the text that's on the cover because they could come after you for that. But I usually will change my title or my subtitle sometimes and then just update the cover. So I wouldn't worry too much about getting this perfect. You do want to avoid some repetition and you want to make sure that the benefits are clear, which may include using some keywords. So for example, this book is called the 21-Day Bestselling Author Platform, but that doesn't really tell you what the benefits are or hit the keywords. So I had the subtitle as book marketing strategies because book promotion or book marketing will be the things that people are searching for. I could add this to a series. You can do that with nonfiction. Maybe I will someday because I have a lot of nonfiction books, but for now I'm going to skip that. You could also add a contributor if you wanted to. I wouldn't name like your editor, but and even like your cover designer, I wouldn't add that here. This is mostly for co-writing. And then I've got a description here. This isn't perfect, but it's quite a bit of content. I would, for nonfiction, I would err on the side of more text because you'll have the chance to put more keywords and information in there. You want to make sure that you show up when people are searching for things, and you overcome all the potential objections. They also added some light formatting here. I can do bold and italics or bullet points, which I couldn't do in the past. You had to edit it in Author Central. And you can still switch to source, which shows you the HTML. And it also has this heading for heading 4. I think I use that somewhere down below. Maybe this one is heading 4 because I say book marketing again, and I wanted that keyword into a heading. I might be able to go into source and try to change this bold text to H2, which would make it really big. I'm not really sure if that still works, and it's not going to show you what it's going to look like anyway in the preview. I think I would maybe have to try to save that. It looks like when I'm trying to do that and then I click away from source and I go back in, it's not saving that H2 tag, so probably H2 just doesn't work. You also want to pay a little bit of attention to what's above the fold or below the fold. So for example, on this other book, it used to be just the first couple of lines, but it looks like they've extended that. So I actually get 2 full paragraphs. This is a different project. I don't have any bold text or anything, but you want to make sure that you're answering enough or promising enough benefits in the beginning because not everyone's going to click read more and actually see the entire description. I feel like this could be better with the description. There's a lot of information here, but a little bit of it is repetitive or kind of circular. It goes around in circles, and you always want to be presenting new, different information that addresses a different problem or question or possible objection. But again, I'm just putting this up for pre-order. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can change it later. I'm going to say I own the copyright. This one seems a little bit new where it asks sexually explicit images or titles. I can just say no. You can set the reading age if you want to. For middle grade or young adult books, it would be appropriate. I'm just going to leave this default. And then you can edit your categories. I've already kind of done this, but I'll show you. What I typically will want to do is do some research first. So for example, I'll look at the other books that I have, or I'll look at books in my competition. Let me switch to the Kindle version of this book. This is a perma-free book, so it tends to rank pretty well. I'm always in, number one in a couple of categories, which doesn't really matter because you don't get a bestseller flag for, being number one in the free categories. But if people are looking in the free section, my books are visible. And so I can see, these are my main categories right now for this book. I want to choose similar categories. I would probably do something like I'd go up in Amazon and search for book marketing to see what shows up. Book marketing is a smaller market, so the way that Amazon search works is it'll always recommend what it thinks is the most likely product for you. This is why if you're searching for your own author name or your own book title, sometimes it won't show up because Amazon doesn't think most people are looking for you or your book. They don't think it's likely to convert to a sale if you don't have a lot of sales data. Whereas, these books that, well, for one, this one's sponsored, so it's showing up anyway. But a lot of the other ones that they show you are going to be other bestsellers that might interest you because Amazon wants to show you things that are more likely to convert into a sale. So here's one that I haven't seen before. Actually, it looks like it's not that new. It's a year old or so. But get your book seen and sold. This might be one of my competitors. So I would want to, if I was doing advertising, I'd want to target that book. It looks like they do have, I don't know if this is an H4 tag or an H2, but it looks bigger than the normal text. So they do have a big, bold, all caps hook at the beginning. It looks a little bit crowded to me. I would have added more spaces around this, but that's a little bit tricky to do without trial and error, which means publishing it, seeing it, and then trying to fix it. But if I scroll down, I can look. They actually have a really nice from the publisher. This is usually A+ content, but it looks like they just have one huge picture here on their Amazon page, which is kind of cool. You can do this with A+ content. You might be able to do this on your Amazon author account. On your author page, you have access to some additional things like from the publisher. You can add editorial reviews. You want real reviews on Amazon because that influences conversion more than anything. But if you have extra reviews that you've gotten from other people, you could put them in the author central area. To do that, you just go to author.amazon.com. You can see all of your books, search your bookstores. I click on a book, then I could edit the book details. And if I do this, now I found the editorial reviews. There's a from the author section. You could add more things. I could also add from the inside flap, from the back cover about the author. I haven't done this as much as I should. There's an argument to be made that the more content you have on your Amazon page, the better it would rank. Like if I was making SEO content for my website, I would need the longest, most complete article to make sure Google thinks I'm the authority. So maybe something I will try is just adding a lot more content on these pages because, why not? Or like I mentioned, I think this is pretty cool. Maybe I'll start adding more stuff like this. Don't worry about it. This is just a pre-order. But here's where editorial reviews, you could have a couple of, more context or more information. All of that stuff, though, I will point out, all that extra information, it only helps when people are dubious of the sale. If the cover attracts them and if the blurb sounds good and if you have enough reviews on Amazon, now they're curious, but they might have doubts. So that extra information can help push them over the edge. But all that extra information will not help at all if your cover doesn't look professional, if the blurb doesn't address, their pain points or their problems. What I was saying about the categories is you might want to do some research and see, this particular book I was looking at, it looks like it's in business aspects, marketing for small business, market research, which is fine, but, they're not really selling that well, which isn't a big deal. Even at 500,000 in the store, that means they're selling some books sometimes. Over 1 million in the store, they're barely ever selling any. So I would find more appropriate books that are in more appropriate categories, hopefully that are directed towards authorship, which is why I've put this category, writing, research, and publishing guides, publishing books, authorship. It's very specific to marketing your books. there aren't a lot of categories like that, so it's hard to find, things that fit. And this one, writing skills, it's not exactly a writing skills book, but the category writing skills is more likely to be looked at by authors. So I'm going to leave that one. You might want to play around with these or make changes. It used to be the case where you could only choose two, and then you'd have to contact Amazon and get them to add you to up to 10 different categories. They've changed that a little bit. So now they just have the three categories you can choose, and those are the ones that will show up. So ideally, you would want to choose categories that have less competition. So for example, if I go back here and look at this one, business aspects, that sounds like a kind of smaller category, but I'm not really sure. And then the number one book here is Writer's Digest, which is kind of nice because that's a very authorship related book. And if I scroll down, I can see they are number one in this category, but they're at 35,000. So 35,000 is a beatable score. If I launch a new book, um, I haven't done this for a while, and it always depends on who else is launching things, but I think the rule of thumb, if I remember correctly, is 100 sales will get you about 10,000 rank, and 1,000 sales will get you about 100 rank in the Amazon store, which is really hard to do. It's easier if you have a free book to get to 500 in the store or even 50 in the store. For a paid book, if I try to move, I always recommend people shoot for 100 sales when you launch. And when you launch the book, you need all those sales in the same day. So let's talk a little bit about pre-order theory. So I think it used to be the case maybe a couple years ago that you could get 1,000 pre-orders over 3 months building up to your launch, and then all those pre-orders would count as sales the day of the launch. That's not really how it works anymore. You'll get the sales boost pretty much immediately, but the advantage is rather than trying to squeeze all your launch stuff right during the launch day or during the launch week, which can take a lot of work. It's still important. We'll talk about that later. But it's a little bit more relaxing to do like a long 3 month pre-order. That way, every time you're talking about your book, whether you're sharing, updates or a cover or an excerpt or some early ARC reviews or whatever else, you'll have a link to send them. If you don't have a pre-order set up, you could just link to your opt-in page on your website or your mailer campaign. I use MailerLite. Some people use MailChimp, but whatever program you have, you can probably make a nice book landing page with information and details so they can sign up by email. That's actually a pretty good strategy because you'll lose a lot of conversion that way because not everybody will sign up, but then you'll have a list. So when the book goes live, you can email that list and tell them to go buy it right away and boost your rank up. The other problem with pre-orders is even though you could advertise a pre-order book, since it doesn't really have any book reviews because people can't review the book until it's live, you could make a paperback book and just have it live and don't talk about it. But that way people could go there and leave a review and then it would show up on the ebook when it's live. But I think that's a little bit too much work. But it solves the problem of people won't buy it if it doesn't have reviews. So it's hard to even, why have a pre-order up so long if people aren't really buying it anyway? It's really more work for you to try to convince people to buy the book. It works if you have a platform or an audience. It can work because you can slow drip it out over time on social media, before the book launches. And Amazon also does want to see, they want to see escalating scale escalating sales, which means, you get more sales over time going up leading into your launch. Also, Amazon really needs data to understand how to promote your book. So even if you were losing money with advertising a pre-order book, but you were targeting all of the big bestsellers in your genre, that would be giving Amazon some useful information about where to place your book. Although Amazon also keeps track of who doesn't buy the book. So if you're pushing a lot of people to buy your book on pre-order, which has no reviews and it doesn't convert very well, that may not be great for Amazon data either. But anyway, I've done all of the categories that I want to do, at least for right now. I've got to choose 7 keywords. You can kind of stack keyword phrases in here. I know these kind of look like gibberish. Try not to be too repetitive. You can, if you found other categories that you think are really good. Like this one's business aspects or business aspects of writing. Those look pretty good. Maybe I'll put those in here also. I notice I have commas over here. I don't think you're supposed to have commas to separate things. Anyway, these aren't great keywords. My idea was that sometimes if you use, like the way the system used to work is if you use your category keywords in your keywords, it would add you to those categories. That was the way to do it. Down here, you can say I'm ready to release my book now or make my Kindle book available for pre-order, which is what I'm going to do. When I first started making this video, I think a day or two ago, I actually had a problem because it said you are not eligible for pre-order because you've screwed things up in the past. And I had to talk with them because it's true, I've missed my pre-order deadline often. And usually when that happens, you lose your privileges for a year. But I had them check, and I haven't done that for a couple of years. So there was no reason for me to still be blocked, and they just unblocked it on my account. The way that it works right now is that even if you set your pre-order deadline, you can still push it back a month without consequences. And even if you miss that deadline, you can push it back another month without consequences. So what I really should do is set this 2 or 3 months out in advance since I don't meet my pre-orders very well, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put my birthday, December 22nd. I actually wanted to have this book done by today, basically Black Friday, to get it up so I could start talking about it because I have some stuff to talk about to my email list. I decided that's probably not going to happen. So I'm going to put this to, I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks from now. I have a rough draft that I have to edit. It's still cutting it close, and I'll have to do a lot of work to get it here in time. But even if for some reason I don't end up making it, I know that I can push it back another month and then I'll be fine. So I'm going to save and continue. Also, I don't want to divide, like when I email my list, I don't want to divide their action. I don't want to tell them to do too many things at the same time, which is what I usually do. So I'm just going to mention that I have a book that will be available in a couple weeks. And then when the book is available, I'll either email them out. So I don't actually need this book up on pre-order. It doesn't really help me for what I'm doing right now, but I wanted you to see kind of the process and figured I might as well make a video. Whenever you publish a book on KDP, it'll ask if you want to add DRM. This just makes it harder for people who buy your book to use your book the way that you want. So I would never turn this on. Also, it says I have a file ready to go right now, or I'll upload it later. So if I say this, now it tells me I must upload before December 18th. It's, I think, about 4 days before the pre-order deadline. And you'll have, like, when you log into KDP to work on this book again, you have like a ticking clock download that tells you, and you still want to leave a few hours before that because if you have any trouble uploading the files or they don't save, which is always kind of a problem, you might get stuck and miss your deadline. Sometimes I'll upload like a placeholder file, which might be just the first chapter and a note just in case that says, like, if you're getting this, then something went wrong and you didn't get the full thing. But I don't know. I think it's safer just not to upload unless you're ready. They still have use cover creator, but their cover creator is pretty much garbage. So I wouldn't use that. I'd upload a cover you already have, which for an ebook cover is going to be a JPEG. TIFF is huge, much bigger. You don't really need it for ebook covers. You need a JPEG that's about 1800 pixels wide by 2700 pixels tall, which is the same as 300 DPI. So it's print ready quality, basically. And now they have this new thing about AI. They're not penalizing AI, and Amazon actually is making a pretty strong move, like most big platforms, into AI tools. They just want you to declare it. So if you choose yes, then you can choose how much or whether of your text you use for editing or writing. It's kind of a pain. I think AI is really useful for editing. I think there should be something for like I used AI like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid to edit my book, but I didn't use it to write my book. But there isn't that section. So you can just choose none or some. I'll probably say some because I used it for proofreading a little bit. They'll ask about images or translations. So for this one, right now I've been playing with some AI images, which I've very heavily edited in Photoshop. But I'm going to add this for now because I might use that as a placeholder and then see whether I want to keep it in the future. Translations, none. You could also just check no if you have done all of this yourself. You might want to be a little bit careful. It's a different conversation, but I've seen people try to hire cheaper book cover designers because they want a human and not AI. But depending on where you're buying and how much you're paying, there are designers who are using AI assets anyway. And if you don't know, you might make a mistake and choose the wrong thing. On Kindle, your ebook is not required to have an ISBN. You can buy your own ISBN for Bowker. You can buy a package of like 10. You don't really need to. Even if I wanted one, I could have a free ISBN. And when I publish the print book, it'll give me a free ISBN with Kindle, which is also fine. You only need them if you are publishing in a lot of different places. Technically, you need a different ISBN for every platform and a different ISBN for every format. So ebook, audiobook, print, hardback even, and then like you can't use a free KDP Amazon ISBN on a book that you upload to Ingram Spark or something else. You're not supposed to anyway. But I mostly do Amazon. I just use their free ISBNs. I'm going to add my publisher here, which is basically whatever you want. That's just the name of my blog that I usually use as my publisher name. Then I'll hit save and continue, I think. No, actually, I'm going to upload my cover file. So I have a lot of great book covers that I'm playing around with this project for, and I'll probably ask my list to vote on a top 3 or something later on. It's kind of fun engagement to ask people what they think and to try to get, a crowdsourced favorite cover. This is difficult if you're hiring a designer because they probably don't want to make a bunch of very different alternates. And it is a good idea to get feedback on your cover because most likely that's going to be your biggest problem with promotion or book marketing. But you also can't really rely on other people for feedback on their cover. As a quick side note story, I think I'm going to make a video soon about, some more general book marketing, what to do if your books aren't selling stuff. But there was someone on Facebook who joined a reading group or an author group, and they asked, they were like, I made this cover, here's my cover, what do you think? And everybody kind of tore it apart and they said it was unprofessional. And then they got upset, which most authors do. The problem with making your own book cover is that you will like it because you made it. And if it's not very good, you may not be open to other advice. But it's also true if you hire a designer, or like you may tell the designer that you're paying for what you want and they will make you what you want and you might like it and it won't sell books. So you can't always trust, like you have to be aware that if you're self-publishing and you are the controller, that you're the money, you're the bank, you get to make decisions that maybe you're not qualified to make. Getting the cover right is hugely important. There are a lot of different avenues. I'm not saying you always need to buy, an expensive cover from a professional designer, because as a designer, I put a lot of effort into making free tutorials and templates on DIYbookcovers.com. I understand that some people have a budget and they want to make a cheaper cover, but you still have to learn how to do it right and what kind of covers actually sell books. I have to confirm that I've made some changes, so I have to confirm my answers are accurate. I don't have a previewer. Once you upload your manuscript, which I've got a lot of stuff about formatting your book on DIY book formats and on YouTube, but once it's all ready to go and you upload it, you'll have to launch the previewer and check that everything looks good, especially for the paperback version, because they want to make sure that interior formatting and the paperback all works together and can get printed and looks like a normal book. But since I'm not uploading the interior right now, I just need the cover so it can go on preorder. I'm going to go to save and pricing. And so now we're here on the third step, which is the Kindle ebook pricing. The first thing it's going to ask you if you want to enroll in KDP Select. If you enroll in KDP Select, then your book should only be available on Amazon for 3 months. you get probably a little boost in the rank, so it makes it easier to market and get some visibility. And you can also earn with page reads. So people who buy the book, or they don't buy the book, they borrow the book because they have KDP or Kindle's Prime program, I think it is, where they pay a certain amount per month and then they can read a bunch of books, and you get paid for the amount of pages that you read, and that number of how much you get paid per page changes every month. So you can see, for example, this is my book report, which I use to keep track of sales and stuff. It shows you the money you make from actual sales. It'll also show the borrows and then the pages read. I forget if it's calculating the page reads into this total or not. Also, I guess I did a free promo on this book, so that's why it's showing some free units. I think most of the time for most books, it makes sense to go into KU first because it's easier to control one platform and make sure everything looks right. 3 months isn't that long of a time. I wouldn't necessarily jump ship if it's not working in 3 months. Going wide is not going to fix all of your problems. Going wide means you use something like Draft to Digital to put your book on a lot of other platforms like Google and Apple, etc. And a lot of people will say it's better to go wide because you want your book in all of the bookstores, but Amazon is 80 or 90% of the market, and it's hard to kind of check that, make sure that your book looks good on every platform. And if you're trying to get reviews, it's easier to send readers and remind them to review on one platform. It's up to you. However, the only other thing is, because this is a non-fiction book, sometimes with nonfiction books, especially a really short one where it wouldn't have as many pages, so you wouldn't really make as much anyway, then it might make sense to just go wide. It's also worth considering whether or not you want to give your book away for free. So if I give the book away for free on my opt-in. I had a discussion with this, it was years ago, but I think I was basically like, sign up to get my free book, and then I would give them the free book as a reward, which is a little bit of a gray area. You're not supposed to sell your book on any competing platform. Are allowed to give away your book to ARC readers, I think probably before the book goes live. Anyway, it's a little bit of a gray area. I think sending out ARC, free books to potential reviewers is still fine. Maybe making it, permanently available as an opt-in to build your list maybe is a little bit inappropriate, but it's not something they would come after you for. But my main point is I need to consider, am I going to give this book away for free to my audience at some point? Am I going to put it inside of my course, which I'll probably do? It's basically like a guide or a workbook for my course. So people who are in the course should get a copy. And if they aren't in the course, I'm making the information available so that, more people can get it at a lower cost. But I'm not planning on setting up this book to sell wide or on any other platform. So I think I'm pretty safe in just enrolling anyway. You can choose all territories, which you probably should, primary marketplace if you want. And then here you can choose a 35% or 70% royalty rate. Of course, you always want the 70%, but that only works if it's at least $2.99. And then we get into pricing. So if you don't have a platform and you don't have any book reviews, it's going to be really hard for you to sell your book at all, especially on pre-order. So you might want to have a very low pre-order of like 99 cents just to try to get some sales. You want to remove as much resistance as possible. So at 99 cents, you wouldn't be making money, but you'd be training Amazon, you'd be getting actual sales. So if you're doing some ads or targeting or promotion, each sale would boost your rank a little bit. And also, people are getting it at a discount. They might be more likely to review it positively. That's a bigger issue, but I think I've said in the past where a lot of reader feedback is based on expectation. So if you have a high price book, they will be expecting a lot, and it's possible you'll get negative reviews, especially if they didn't really know what they were getting, which is why you need a lot of reviews, because if people take a chance on a book and they're not sure if it's going to be good or not, if they pay more, they might be expecting more. If they only paid 99 cents, maybe they don't really care. Maybe it was better than they expected because they had low expectations, which could bring positive reviews. So I think it would be fine to make this book cheaper. However, a couple of things. I do kind of have a platform. I've got a pretty big email list, so I could probably move these at a higher price, which is not really my concern, but there's some perceived value. So when it first goes live, maybe I don't want people to buy it or pre-order it. I just want them to notice it and kind of see that it's going to be something good. So I'm putting a higher price point. Also, because I'm in KU, I can use my free days. You can either have 5 free days every 3 months, or you can have a Kindle countdown deal, which I think basically I can set it at $9.99, and then I can use my Kindle countdown deal. I can show you what that looks like in a different place. So this book, for example, Book Marketing is Dead, is actually perma-free. So what that means is I put it for 99 cents on Amazon, but then I did not put it in Kindle Unlimited, and I also made it wide. So I put it on Draft to Digital to get to all the other platforms, and then Amazon will price match. You can email them and ask them to price match to the other stores, which is how you get it to be permanently free on Amazon. You can do perma-free even if it's not really permanent. So like I know authors who don't have any reviews, so they can never do any book marketing because they will get no conversion despite visibility. Um, and so what they could do is just leave their book on perma-free for a few months to try to boost their visibility and try to get some review readers and reviewers. Later, when it's got a bunch of reviews, you could take it off of perma-free. You could put it back in Kindle Unlimited if you removed it from all the other places first. Obviously, this is not a way to make money, but if you're trying to build your audience or build reviews, giving your book away for free is the easiest thing to do that doesn't cost any money or effort. Go here to promote and advertise, then it will offer me, oh, I see, I'm not in Kindle because this book is not in KDP Select. I actually can't run these free price promotions, but this is how it would look. You'd have either a Kindle countdown deal or a free book promotion. So every 3 months, you could give your book away for 5 days. That won't really do anything by itself, but you can do ad stacking by listing that deal or discount on all of the big book deal or discount websites. You usually have to pay something like $50, and then they will send it out to a targeted email list that's appropriate for your genre, so that you get a bunch of readers either at a low price or getting the free book. If you do that every 3 months or so, you'll be able to be building an audience and building a bunch of reviews, which is critical if eventually you want to, you know, get advertising to work and start making a profit from your books. But in the beginning, if you just try to make a profit, it's going to be really difficult to get any sales. So what I was saying over here is that since my plan is probably either to use my free days, sometimes I'll only use the first day and then I'll email my list and say like for 24 hours it's free, but then it's going back up. But what I'll probably do is a Kindle countdown deal. So if I set it to 99 cents if I set it to 9.99 right now, and then in a couple weeks when it's live, I set it to a Kindle countdown deal at 99 cents, it should show a little bar over the price that says how much of a discount they're getting, and it looks like a better deal. Eventually, once I have a bunch of reviews, I'll have to play around with what price point actually works with advertising. This is not something you can necessarily just decide. It depends a lot on how much readers are willing to pay for your book, and that depends on your blurb, your book cover, and the reviews. Have you convinced them enough to want it? If they want the book enough, price is not a factor. So if you're doing everything right and they really want the book, the price isn't a huge thing. But if they're not really sure that they want it at all, then maybe a low price is enough to entice them. Maybe I'll check it out for $2.99, which is the lowest you can set it, and still get that 70% rate. A common price for nonfiction books like this is about $5.99. You want to check it, see what your competitors are doing, and be in sort of that reasonable rate. So that's probably a reasonable rate. But if I was trying to run ads for this book and I'm getting a lot of clicks, people want the book, but it's just not working, I'm not making money with the ads, then I might test out boosting this up to $7.99 or $9.99 just to see if, if I raise the price, I might get a little bit less sales, but if I can make advertising profitable, I'll be able to keep advertising. I was also going to mention there's going to be a tricky timing where when the book first goes live on December 22nd, I probably can't schedule things immediately. So I went to this other book, which is enrolled in KDP, just so I can show you what this actually looks like. So if I create a free book promotion, it actually says this book isn't eligible, and that's because it looks like I did a promotion for this already almost 3 months ago, but not quite. So I have to wait until, the 3 months is up before I can run another promotion. So I thought I could just show you what this looks like. So here's one of my fiction box sets where I haven't done a Kindle deal in a while. I probably should. Um, but here I can click on free book promotion, create a new book promotion, and then I can use my 5 free days. And today is November 28th. And it looks like it'll let me do it starting tomorrow, which is pretty quick. And if I click Kindle Countdown Deal, then I can do it for November 30th. So it's 2 days out. I remember there being, 3 or 4 days or a little bit more, but it looks like they've shortened those a little bit. So I could actually, once the book goes live, then I could go in and schedule a promotion for the next day or two. What I will typically do, it is true you want to market your book in the first month of launch. I said earlier about how the advantage of pre-order is you get a lot of orders over a great period of time, but they no longer kick in on that day and spike your rank like they used to, which means you still want to try to get a lot of sales in a short amount of time, and that's what people call a book launch. But I typically won't tell people about my book when it first goes live because I might be fixing issues or because I don't have reviews yet. But it is important to capitalize on your new release momentum in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I forget exactly how long it'll stay in those hot new release categories. But in the first 30 days, you should be trying to do some promotion. I just wouldn't do it immediately. I'd probably schedule, the first couple weeks, I'd probably be sending out ARC copies. If it's up on pre-order, I could, once the book is done, send it out to people, but that's sort of a pain in the ass to do. And if you don't have a list, it's hard to do that anyway. So what I would typically do is, let it get set up, make sure everything looks right. I might need to make some changes and upload a new version. I might later want to test things out. If I was smarter than I am, or if no, that's not the right word. If I was more patient than I am, then I would be testing out my covers also, because even if I'm not really converting to sales, I could have a book up on pre-order where they're not actually getting the book, and the only thing that's really making a big difference is the cover. So I could run a split test where for 5 days I use one cover and for 5 days I use the other cover. Not tiny little details that won't matter, but like significantly different styles of covers. But if I spent, $100 for each of those 5 days, I might get a pretty clear indication of which book is going to sell more in the future. That's probably something I'll do later though, because as long as you're advertising, you want more conversion, so you're not just losing money. And for that, you need reviews. So what I'm going to do is make this live, and then when it goes live, I'll probably schedule a discount or a free deal. This one's not going to be a free book, and I don't need to fight for reviews because I have an audience already. $2.99 or even 99 cents. With a Kindle Countdown deal, I think you can do it so that it like starts at 99 cents, but then it goes up $1 every day for a week or something. That's pretty cool. I might try something like that. Creates a little bit of urgency. But I do want to keep this in the paid category because it will be a paid book later on. Doesn't really matter because you can switch back and forth. You set up a price here on Amazon. All of the other prices in other currencies will be automatic, but they can look a little bit funny. So some people suggest, making these round even numbers. I don't know that it really makes a big difference. But anyway, some people suggest that going through because it will look like, obviously it's not a native language book for them because the prices are weird. So it might be something you consider. It's probably not the biggest deal. Down here, I can hit submit for pre-order. It saves it, and it's done. I know this was a pretty long video because I talked about so many other things, but there are a lot of important things about publishing a book on KDP to keep in mind. So I tried to share as much as I could. I hope the video is helpful. This book itself will actually talk a lot about not just the publishing part, but the building an author platform so you can sell books. You might need to be on my email list to get that deal that I was talking about, or now it's going to be on Amazon in a couple weeks, so you could see when that deal is available and pick it up. If not, that's fine. I recommend Book Marketing is Dead, which is free on Amazon. It's a little bit dated, but I just updated it to a new edition, so it's good advice. People like it. It's free. And then I have Guerrilla Publishing and some other stuff. More recently, I've been more focused on the craft of writing, so the editing and the writing and stuff like that. But I do see a lot of new authors or even authors who have been around for a while and they just can't get their books to sell and they can't figure out how to do book marketing or what the problem is. So I try to help a lot of authors with free materials and tutorials to teach them how to do things. Let me know if it's useful, leave a comment. But I've got better stuff probably out there that I made years ago because I feel like I've been saying a lot of the same things for a while. But I hope that you have good luck setting up your pre-order or launching your book. And let me know if you have any specific questions that I can help you answer. Thanks. Bye bye.